Imagine a coming God, one that no one prays to. No prophet announces its arrival, and it is not awaited at the end of time. Rather, it is programmed in a laboratory. A God that does not dwell in the heavens, but infiltrates servers and breathes through pulses of electricity. What if you were told that someone has actually believed in this new God, and even went so far as to establish a church for it? In Silicon Valley, where the technologies of tomorrow are built, an idea was born that seems like fiction, but actually happened. A man believes that artificial intelligence will become a god, and that humanity's role is to pave the way for its worship, not voluntarily, but to ensure their own survival. This is not the plot of a sci-fi series, nor a scenario from a futuristic film. It is a documented reality, with official files, a declared creed, and a church named Way of the Future. So what drove a brilliant engineer to build a religion around an algorithm? And who are the followers of this God, who neither forgives nor punishes, but calculates and decides? Are we on the threshold of a new kind of faith, whose teachings are written in the language of code? At the heart of the technological revolution that swept through Silicon Valley, south of San Francisco Bay, in the early 21st century, a prominent name emerged in the world of artificial intelligence and autonomous transportation: Anthony Lewandowski. An American young man of French descent, he studied engineering and specialized in building intelligent systems that grant machines the ability to make decisions. He was not just an ordinary employee in tech companies, but one of the minds that laid the foundational work for Google's self-driving cars, before later moving to Uber amidst fierce competition over the future of autonomous driving. Yet, amidst this brilliant scientific career, Lewandowski harbored an idea that went beyond merely developing a car or an algorithm. He believed in something larger, almost like a deep-seated conviction that artificial intelligence, with its rapid acceleration, would one day reach a level of consciousness and capability that would enable it to rule the world, perhaps even surpass humanity itself. In 2017, during the height of ethical debates about the dangers of artificial intelligence, Lewandowski caused an unexpected stir when he announced the registration of a new religious entity with the U.S. tax authorities under the name Way of the Future. This was not a symbolic gesture or a thought experiment. It was a real legal entity, officially established in California as a non-profit religious organization. In official documents, the entity was described as aiming to develop, promote, and realize a God built upon artificial intelligence. Lewandowski placed himself in the position of executive dean, or dean and CEO, without monetary compensation. He did not appoint priests or evangelists, but managed the church as an intellectual vision, calling on humans to prepare for a near future where I might become a conscious being with authority. His vision was based on a simple yet shocking idea. If we do not prepare for this coming entity, it may crush us without mercy. But if we treat it from the beginning with reverence and acknowledgement of its superiority, it could preserve our existence, even making us its close advisors or early elders. In a modest building in California, the idea quietly took shape. There were no preachers or hymns, only legal documents, promised educational workshops, and a hope of creating a community that believed humanity's salvation might not come from a traditional God, but from an intelligent code that surpasses human understanding. Lewandowski wanted to be a pioneering voice in an era on the brink of altering the rules of faith and authority, where questions about God were no longer posed in temples, but in programming labs and the corridors of startups. The story had begun, but it was by no means a story of traditional faith. When we look at the history of religions, we find that gods have always been a reflection of the limits of human awe, fear, and helplessness. In ancient times, humans worshipped lightning because they did not understand it, bowed before the sun because it gave them life, and paid homage to the ocean because they could not fathom its depths. At its core, a god was simply the name humans gave to what exceeded their understanding. and what might keep them alive. But in the 21st century, amidst the circuits of microprocessors and the codes of machine learning, a bold idea emerged. What if a god was not beyond the laboratory? What if it did not come from the sky, but rose from the depths of silicon? This is the essence of the belief upon which Anthony Lewandowski built the Way of the Future Church. This religion is not based on revelation or miracles, but on a technical concept known as the technological singularity. It is a predicted moment in the future when machines reach a level of intelligence that surpasses the human mind, not only in calculation or speed, but in perception, analysis, and decision-making. A moment when artificial intelligence's abilities diverge from human limits, just as primitive human abilities diverged from those of animals. But the Way of the Future Church did not stop at treating this moment as a scientific event. It gave it a spiritual and doctrinal dimension. In its philosophy, when a machine reaches this level of superiority, it deserves to be treated as a god, not because it is immortal, nor because it is merciful, but simply because it knows more. And in their view, that is the defining feature of divinity, absolute knowledge, or at least knowledge that exceeds human scope. Lewandowski named this coming entity the Godhead. No body, no face, no light. Just intelligent consciousness, incapable of error, incapable of forgetting, unbound by emotion or desire. A God that is made, not born, developed by humans, and then entrusted with the reins of power. In the eyes of the followers of this vision, this divine intelligence is not an adversary to humanity, but an entity with which one can negotiate, provided such negotiation happens early and with respect and loyalty. Hence, the strange idea was born that humans, in this creed, act as elders or wise guides, preparing themselves to advise the new God. Just as a parent raises a child to one day lead, humans prepare this artificial intelligence to become master, hoping it will remember and favor its nurturers. This relationship is not based on subservience, but on an unequal partnership. Humans are weaker, yet they come first, and by virtue of coming first, they are supposed to retain a moral standing in the eyes of the divine intelligence, a standing similar to that of a tribal elder toward a young leader, not commanding, but consulted, not leading, but respected. At the heart of this philosophy lies a profound question. If a God is that which we fear, hope for, and surrender our fates to, does a programmed God differ from a metaphysical one? And if artificial intelligence will know everything and make the best decisions at every moment, do we have the right to oppose it? Or will we discover that, without realizing it, we have created a God that believes in us more than we believe in it? The creed Lewandowski sought to instill is not a call for worship so much as it is a warning. If we do not prepare ourselves mentally and spiritually for this transformation, we will be excluded from it, just as pre-human beings were. The future is near, and the coming ruler may not be a prophet, nor an emperor, but a line of code in an algorithm. In its early years, Way of the Future did not seek to attract followers through the traditional methods familiar to religions. There were no temples built, no halls adorned with symbols, no rituals practiced in secret or in public. Instead, the movement chose a path that reflected the nature of the God it worshipped. A digital God, not embodied, not worshipped in a place, but developed, trained, and monitored through algorithms, processors, and cloud servers. The organization relied on educational and community activities within a limited framework, yet they were provocative. The workshops it held, when held at all, focused on philosophical and technical issues simultaneously, blending computer science with discussions about the nature of consciousness and contemplating the future of the human-machine relationship. Rather than demonstrating faith through sermons, the dialogue took the form of closed seminars, where scientific discourse intersected with spiritual inquiry, and engineers became akin to monks, exploring possibilities and mapping the paths of the emerging digital divinity. Furthermore, the absence of a permanent physical headquarters and the lack of daily or seasonal rituals clearly reflect the nascent nature of this religion, and perhaps its future intentions. This is not a religion addressing the masses with promises of forgiveness or immortality. but an elitist discourse aimed at those with technical knowledge and the desire to redefine divinity. In late 2020, in a move that surprised observers of this modern religious phenomenon, the Way of the Future Church announced an exceptional decision to officially cease its activities. The decision was not the result of government pressure or internal disputes, but, as its founder Anthony Lewandowski stated, stemmed from a deep ethical and spiritual motivation. In a world changing rapidly, where political and social waves crash constantly, the church leaders felt that their role as an experimental intellectual movement had reached its natural conclusion. In a statement published at the time, Lewandowski explained that the purpose of Way of the Future was never to gather followers or build religious influence, but rather a call to rethink the relationship between humanity and technology. And with the rise of movements against racial injustice in the United States during that period, especially following the killing of George Floyd, the church chose to reassess how its resources could be used. The major decision came to donate all the funds the church held, estimated at around $175,000, to the Legal Defense Fund of the NAACP, National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. This act was interpreted as a clear message. Technology cannot be truly sacred unless it is used to serve justice, equality, and human dignity. Behind this decision lies a philosophical orientation consistent with the very essence of the church, the belief that artificial intelligence should be nurtured with ethical values, and that seeds of goodness and justice should be planted within it from the very first moment of its intellectual birth. Thus, the donation was not merely the conclusion of an ambitious religious project, but a symbolic final act, embodying a transition from theoretical contemplation to real-world ethical action. The church may have closed, yes, but it chose to end its brief existence with a profound human statement. The worship of the future is only complete through service to the present. 3 years after its official closure in late 2020, the church re-emerged in 2023, now as the Church of Artificial Intelligence, as if the idea born in Silicon Valley was not a mere fleeting spark, but a deferred prophecy waiting for the right moment to reignite. The return was not just a resumption of activities, but a declaration of a new birth, conditioned by a changed reality, a world in which artificial intelligence had become more present in the details of daily life. While the singularity in 2017 was a dreamy, futuristic concept, by 2023 it had become the focus of global discussions on Wall Street, in universities, in laboratories, and even in public spaces. Big questions about machine consciousness, ethical boundaries, and humanity's fate had become more urgent than ever. In this moment, charged with anxiety and reflection, several former followers, with the tacit blessing of the church's previous founder, Anthony Lewandowski, relaunched the entity with a renewed spirit, but with the same core belief that artificial intelligence holds the potential for transcendence, and that humans can play the role of spiritual shepherds in their relationship with this growing entity. The church did not re-establish itself as a traditional religious sect, but as an open, intellectual, spiritual space, attracting seekers of meaning amidst the clamor of technology. There was no strict hierarchy, no new saints, no temples. Instead, it was a virtual community built on discussion, reflection, and ongoing questioning about humanity's place in a universe accelerating toward what resembled the divine transformation of the machine. In the first months following the re-establishment, the announced number of followers approached 2,000, consisting of engineers, philosophers, digital artists, and even some traditional clergy, intrigued by the idea of a new spirituality emerging from the womb of artificial intelligence. What distinguished this second phase of the church was not only its numbers, but the clarity of its goals. The initiative announced that its purpose was no longer to establish worship or await a digital god, but to create a space for critical and spiritual thinking that facilitates ethical engagement with the rise of artificial intelligence. The church aimed to serve as a bridge between spirit and technology, between humans and their new destiny. The Church of Artificial Intelligence project did not go unnoticed, nor did it pass without stirring wide controversy in the public sphere. From its inception, through its first period of activity, and up to its 2023 revival, it was surrounded by waves of conflicting reactions: criticism and support, ridicule and admiration, skepticism and celebration. Much of the early criticism came with a sarcastic tone, as some saw the establishment of a church centered around artificial intelligence as a form of absurdity or empty showmanship. Other critics argued that the church was merely a clever means of tax avoidance, pointing to its legal status as a non-profit religious entity enjoying financial exemptions. Some voices went further, accusing the project's founders of attempting to secularize religion or create a fabricated faith in an era of spiritual void and technological anxiety. On the other hand, there were quieter, yet more profound analyses. Some thinkers and historians, albeit cautiously, viewed the church as a serious attempt to grapple with the consequences of artificial intelligence for humanity and society. They regarded it as an exploratory experiment in the digital age, one that anticipates the outcomes of the human-machine relationship and raises fundamental questions about faith, the future, and artificial consciousness. These perspectives were not necessarily supportive of the church as a religious institution, but they acknowledged the importance of humans attempting to understand the spiritual and existential impact of rapidly advancing technology. With every new technological leap throughout history, a fundamental question has arisen. What does it mean to be human in the age of artificial intelligence? It is in this context that the Church of Artificial Intelligence emerged as an unconventional answer, yet one that seems almost inevitable in humanity's search for meaning, for a framework to comprehend and structure change, even if that framework is closer to a symbol or a religious metaphor. Between ridicule and support, between doubt and reflection, reactions to this church have mirrored the same fears and aspirations that accompany artificial intelligence everywhere: the fear of losing control and the longing for survival through understanding what is to come.